Did the world used to have more magic in it? Let's talk about it. I got to thinking about people calling each other names. And they get really mad when you call them a name that has a negative connotation to it. And so you have the power to change reality. Now, I grew up calling names, being called names. It was a miserable experience, right? When you're young. As you learn to understand that words don't change reality, right? If someone calls you a fag, you don't turn into a cigarette, do you? You don't. You don't take on any of the characteristics of a cigarette if someone calls you a fag. Yet, if you call someone a fag, they get upset. Now, let me talk about this a little bit, because I get upset when people call me names, but not because of the name, but rather someone's trying to occupy my attention with hostile intent. They're trying to consume up my resources, my mental, emotional resources, and my attention in a bad way. Especially if someone calls me a name, like, okay, and you move on. They want your attention again, and again, and again. They won't leave you alone, right? They could be calling me a bologna sandwich. They could be just saying a weird word. Hey, purple, purples. Hey, Steve, purple, right? They're trying to get a rise out of me. They're obviously hostile to me for some reason. That's bothersome. But just the mere fact that someone said a word, called me a word, and you say, okay, is this true, right? Am I a cigarette if someone calls me a fag? No. But for some reason, they think I'm a cigarette. Okay, well, that's their problem, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe they're craving a cigarette. Maybe they really want to suck on me like a cigarette. So they're calling me a fag, right? Maybe they're really jonesing for a cigarette, so they're calling me a fag. Okay, that could be. Or maybe they don't like smoking, and whatever. They're comparing me to smoking, so they're calling me a fag. Whatever. So be it. Doesn't change the truth of the matter. I'm not a cigarette. But was there a time when we could say something to somebody and it really would change them? Like was there a time where if I called you a duck, you would start to take on duck-like qualities? And the way to break the spell is to fight the spellcaster, either force them to take it back, right? How many times do you see in movies? It's usually movies about teenage kids or something, and someone calls someone a name, like, take it back! Take it back! As though, like, you could retract the spell which you've put into the universe. This magic spell. Or if you've managed to beat up the person who cast the spell, maybe it breaks the spell, right? Yeah, you're gonna call me a fag, and then you beat them up. Like, really? Can a cigarette do that to you? Huh? Didn't think so. Yeah. Like, it's such a big deal that someone else thinks that you're a cigarette. So, maybe there was a time, long ago, where there was more magic in the world. It was just, you could just speak and things would happen. You really could, summon a fireball, or a magic missile, or put someone to sleep, or whatever. All these tropes from Dungeons and Dragons, or other fantasy role-playing games, what if they were real? You'd be like, did we lose the privilege of doing that because we just kept doing so much bad stuff? Was the world once full of magic, like in Tolkien's world? And then the magic runs out of the world after, as humans became more prominent, the magic ran out of the world. The ring was destroyed in that world, right? And then the elves left, and then the Ents started to disappear, and the orcs started to disappear, and whatever, the magical creatures started to disappear. Did our souls live through that? And that's why we're like, when we get angry and we want to hurt somebody, we call them names. And that's why it hurts. Because you remember what calling people bad things used to do. you cold-hearted snake. And suddenly their heart chills in their chest and they start to develop reptilian features, right? What do you think? So I think you should comment on this subject, or I will call you a cigarette. Thanks for watching.